Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about tinder bundles. Tinder bundles are probably the most overlooked component of the fire making process. Everybody, including myself, gets fixated on producing an ember by whatever friction fire method you happen to be using, because that's the toughest part of the job, is getting that ember going. Once you get the ember going, you have to transfer it into a tinder pile or a bird's nest. A lot of times, if you don't produce that bird's nest correctly, what's going to happen is you're going to blow out your ember, or you're not going to actually get fire. So all of that hard work and effort goes to waste. So what we have here is 4 different bundles. I've got a juniper bark bundle right here. I've got one that's made from yucca leaves. I've got one here that's made from grass. And I've got another one here that we produced using pine needles. So we're going to run out into the field, into the low foothills of the desert mountains. We're going to collect these materials, bring them home, process them, and then turn them into these tinder bundles that you see right here. Then we're going to try them out and see how they work. It's a little close-up of our bundles: juniper, yucca leaf, grass, pine needle. Okay, we're back out here in the desert foothills, high desert actually, really high, and we're searching for some suitable material to make tinder bundles with. This tree right here is a juniper, and it makes one of the best tinder materials you can find anywhere. Essentially a cedar tree. It's just a different type of cedar that grows out here in the high desert, and it's a really common plant. So taking a close look at it, you can see this bark, which can be peeled off, but I'm not going to do that because I'm seeing lots of stuff laying under some of these other dead trees here that I can take without having to tear the material off this. There was obviously a fire through here, I think around 10 years ago. Killed off a lot of the desert scrub and the junipers and things like that. So looks like there's plenty of bark just hanging off these things. I'll collect some of this material and we'll take it home and process that into a tinder bundle. Okay, I got a pretty good handful just from this one tree alone, and there's lots more. Okay, I'm down in this creek bed now, and there's lots of available tinder down here. When you're down in a creek bed like this, you want to look for areas where the flooding has left a lot of debris and everything on trees, like you see right there. That material is going to be a lot drier. It's full of leaves, pine needles, which make an excellent tinder. Potential tinder everywhere. This stuff would have to be processed, but I mean, yeah, that's just that'd be pretty easy to work that into a nice tinder pile. Crush it up. So there's another example. Basically, just about anywhere where there's vegetation, you can be able to find tinder of some sort. Here's a big pine here. I think it's a ponderosa. And it's just full of these pine needles down here, so I'm going to gather up a few handfuls of this. We'll bring that home and see if we can turn that into a tinder bundle also. Okay, here's some more nice material. It's grass right here. Not sure what type it is, but we'll grab a few handfuls of this too. It's like good stuff. This is our desert yucca out here, and the lower dead leaves here make really good tinder. But you need to find them like this here, where they're already somewhat processed for you. Otherwise, you got to pound these things with a rock. Yeah, here's a really nice yucca right here. And there's a whole lot of leaves down here that have already been pretty well weathered. So I'm going to gather up a bunch of these. These look perfect here. I won't have to process them very much. It's going to save me a lot of time. These dead stalks on these yucca trees make really good spindles. Now this yucca is fruiting, and those are edible pods on there. Okay, we got our raw material home now. We're going to go ahead and process this into some tinder bundles. We've got juniper bark over here, our yucca leaves right there, a bunch of pine needles, and some kind of grass. Okay, before we get started, here's a couple of examples of juniper bark tinder bundles. We've got a small one here. This is the type I ordinarily make if I just want to blow my ember into flame, and then I'm going to snuff it out. I don't need anything that's going to sustain the ember or the flame for very long. So this is the type you'll normally make if you're just playing around with a bow drill or a hand drill or whatever. And then if you're actually going to build a fire with the thing, you want to have a larger tinder bundle. This would be like if you're going to make a campfire, or if you're going to, if this is for survival purposes, something like that. What these have in common is they both have a basket around the outside of coarse fibers, or a shell if you will, upon which there's some medium content fibers placed over that, and then your really fines, and then your powder on top of that. So let's get started and make one of these. First thing you want to do is find a longer piece of fiber. In this case it's juniper bark. And just want to essentially wrap it around like that, kind of make your outside structure. This piece is pretty long, so I'm going to wrap it around several times here, just so we have a nice shell, nice basket that we can put the rest of our components in. Nothing pretty, but it'll get the job done. Okay, so there's our shell. Now what we want to do, put some cross components in here. Break them up a little bit because you want some air to be able to penetrate through the bottom of your tinder bundle, or your bird's nest, whatever you want to call it. Put that like that. One like that, just kind of push it all down in there. Okay, we have a sort of a empty shell here. Now what we want to do is put some medium-sized fibers, fill that in so we don't have those air gaps down there. Put that aside over there. So just get a wad of this stuff here. Twist it like that. That looks pretty good. It's going to be a big tinder bundle. Put all that material in there. Get a little more of that stuff. And this is a kind of tinder bundle that you'd want to use to start a campfire. It's going to burn for a long time, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. All these little fibers and dust that's falling onto the table here is good stuff that we'll put in on top of this. Nice stuff. Kind of spread that around just like a bird would do. Okay, now we're ready for some finer material yet. You can really get some fine stuff here if you work this back and forth with your hands like this. Layer that in there. Now, we have enough density there. It's packed down enough. You don't want it too dense or the airflow won't go through it. But you don't want your tinder to just drop right through. Your ember, rather. Sometimes what will happen is the ember will just burn its way right through really quickly and drop through the bottom, and then you may lose your fire. Now for the really fine stuff, we're just going to create essentially dust here. Just roll that around several times. As you can see, what we're getting here is basically a powder, which is really what the ember likes. It'll transfer to that. Now these bigger tinder bundles may take a little longer to blow into flames, but they will last a lot longer, and this is what you want in a survival situation. Again, I've been using the smaller tinder bundles on my videos because all I was intending on doing was just to blow it in the flame and not actually transfer it. But some really nice fine material there. All right, we'll drop that right in the center. And this bundle's ready to go. Okay, now we'll do the same thing with the yucca leaves. Just take one of these for our outer shell. This bundle's going to be a little smaller than the last one. Wrap it around like that. Okay, we've got an outer shell or a basket. Now what we want to do is put some of these fibers stuff's a little tougher than the juniper, but it makes a pretty good bundle. I've used it quite a few times. And you notice we're getting some debris down here on the ground, or on the table here, that we can use for the very top of our bird's nest. See all those little particles falling out of there? That's good stuff. This yucca likes to burn slow and last a long time. Now really work this up good. So I'm going to have a little bit more of a random kind of a bottom to the basket here rather than the cross hatching that we had on the juniper, so I can get some good airflow in here. Now if your juniper leaves aren't dried out and already shredded somewhat like this, like the good stuff that we're lucky to find, then you need to pound them on a rock until it does look like this, which doesn't take that long, but in this case we didn't need to, so why bother? Okay, there's our fines. Now we just take our little, something like that. I want a little bit finer material here. Yeah. Press that down in there like that, just like we did on the last one. Yeah, a little bit more material in there. You want to make sure that it's solid enough in the bottom again so that your ember doesn't drop through. That just really shreds these fibers and exposes a lot more surface to the air, which is what it's all about in order to keep that tinder going. Now, put some of this material in here. A little more here. Boy, that looks pretty good there. Don't want it too dense though, because then it'll be harder to actually get it into the flame. Now, I don't know if you can see this material down here. What I want is this really, really fine powdery stuff. You can see it there, I think. It's just, it's almost like what we had with the juniper bark. Really, really fine powdery stuff. And that will go right into the center. And there we go. All right. That's a yucca tinder bundle there. Now we're going to make one out of this grass pile that we collected. But we'll grab a handful of it here. It should be fairly easy to make our outer structure here. Alright, that should do it. Get that down in our basket. I want to scoop that out a little bit so that it's sort of bowl shaped again, because that makes the ideal shape for a bird's nest. Alright, just keep working it down, breaking them up into smaller and smaller fibers, exposing more and more surface. Now, okay. Okay, there's our grass bird's nest. Okay, now for our pine needle. This material here, we can't work it all at once, so we'll take a little bit at a time, put it down on the block here, and just start crushing these fibers to get the smaller and smaller pieces here, so we expose more of it to the air. Okay, that's some pretty nice looking material there. I'm sure that'll burn nicely. Looks a lot like the juniper bark actually. Kind of shape it into a bowl, hold it together with our hand, take all this material here, put it in the very middle, press that down, but open it up a little bit. We don't want it too tight. We'll make sure we get oxygen in there. And take all this fine material here. That ember should transfer to that material really, really nicely. Okay, again, I have to hold it together with my hand. Okay, we got a nice ember. We'll go ahead and transfer that to one of our tinder piles. I'm going to transfer the heat to one of these little yucca stalks here. Okay, that's going. All right, we'll blow this into flame. Okay, drop that in there. And we'll do another one here. Okay, now we'll see if we can get this one going. Okay, we got that one going now. Okay, now for our pine needle. Let that spread a little bit. There's our pine needle. And now we'll do our grass. Yeah, we'll just transfer it here from the Now if we're going to actually make a fire, we just put our kindling over the top of that, and you can see that's burning for quite a long time, and there'd be no trouble at all in getting a fire going. The flames lasted about 5 minutes, but you can see there's plenty of glowing stuff in there. Plenty of time to get a fire going. So it'd be really easy to get some kindling going with that. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, again, just put a comment down at the bottom of this video, and I'll try and help you out.